What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 9 of my ranking and reviewing the Phish live Phish release series. I'm going to talk about 9, and then I'm going to show where I think 9 falls among the other 8 I've already done. Yeah, this is a 3-disc release, ninth in the series, came out back in 2002, and this is the complete show from August 26th, 1989, Vermont show, Townshend Family Park in Townshend, Vermont. Couple things about this release that I think kind of, I don't know, define the release for me, at least in my version of my Phish fandom version, is this release kind of one of those releases that has to be released, right? If you're going to do like an archival release series, at some point you're going to do an early show from the band. And at this point, an 89 show, it's the earliest release we have in the Live Phish series. I want to say it was even maybe contractually like obligated by Trey that there had to be an early show at some point, because you need that document of like where the band came from in their musical journey, right? Like those later shows are maybe more impressive when you see like where the band started off in like 89. Not that it was a great leap in like playing or their abilities, but what they would do on a regular basis with most of their songs changed quite dramatically. And you need that sort of like historical like release to document that. This show very much does that. And I think it carries a lot of water simply by being an early show in their sort of evolution. It's also very much a set list driven show. I really like, as far as like must hear jams that I'm like, okay, on this show, you got to hear this jam, you got to hear this jam, right? Which for me, at this point in my Phish experience, that drives like people recommend shows. I'm like, well, what is it about that show? I want to know the reason. And usually there's like a jam or two, right? I think there's 2 jams in here that kind of elevate. One that maybe isn't the best, one that is pretty good. And then another one I think is like top notch, just way up there that like Phish was not doing on a regular basis. And this was like open the door to like peek behind the curtain. Like this is what awaits you like every night, like 3 years from now or 2 years from now, right? So there's 2 moments like that. But for the most part, it's just a ridiculously great set list with ridiculously great performances, like just the band doing what they're supposed to do and sounding fantastic because they're Phish, with 2 moments that I think completely exceed that. There's also some nice things. The only Phish I've been listening to lately is this like live Phish series. So it's nice to hear some of the aggression on some of the solos, like the You Enjoy Myself solo just felt particularly aggressive. Like I don't think a 2000 Trey would attack a You Enjoy Myself the way he did. That was one that particularly jumped out at me. And I want to say it might have been the Antelope that also felt like, oh, right, I like this aggression. This is what I need more from Trey for always. So there were the moments like that, like Page's keyboard setup. I think there's a lot of good organ sounds that seep in. There's a lot of just really neat, interesting moments about their sound, about the things they're doing, this sort of like joking around when introducing songs. Pete Rose gets a lot of shout outs during this. There's obviously a very playful vibe, some of the, twerky, weird covers they do. So it feels like an early show in like all the best way possible. And you get to see what this band was like, back in these early days. And yet they're still playing this kind of music and doing this kind of thing. So it's an overall really, really fun, enjoyable listen. But I do think like if you're looking for those epic jams and you're just going to like compare like this Split Open and Melt, I'm not sure there's a Split Open and Melt that is not better than this. Like, I mean, maybe anything from this era, but it's a really short, perfunctory, like the jam is almost like the jam on Lawn Boy. Like we're just doing a Split Open and Melt, but it just sounds great, right? This is the Split Open and Melt they were playing back in 89. Yeah, it's not 15 minutes and it's not going to leave your jaw like this, but it's still really good that this band was playing this music. So this is very much where this, like, how I approach this disc, which I admit I don't listen to very often. But when I do enjoy it. Opens up with a fluff head, really good. Challenge yourself right off the bat. Yeah, let's just go for a fluff head straight off. Pretty nice solo at the end. Pretty nice jam. I want to say it's might even better than what I heard recently from a more recent show. We get a Colonel Forbin's ascent into Fly Famous Mockingbird. The Famous Mockingbird, that was a song back when I was seeing them like about 3 years later, when I started going regularly. I didn't really like Mockingbird. This one seems to have a little more intensity. Again, this might be one of those songs where I think Trey's just a little more aggressive than he would be later on. A little bit of narration, not much. We get a really nice Harry Hood. Again, that opening, not again, but that opening section is definitely not as developed, or we're not like just kind of soaking in that part. We kind of get straight to the point on into Harry Hood, but a nice, good closing solo. Split Open and Melt just does Split Open and Melt stuff. Divided Sky sounds fantastic. They're soaring on this. The playing is fantastic. This is actually pretty good Divided Sky, yeah. Closes out disc 1, really, really strong. Divided Sky sounds perfect. Really enjoyed that. Disc 2, we get a You Enjoy Myself. Again, just the set list is absolutely fantastic. With some pretty, what to me felt like aggressive Trey guitar playing after listening to more recent stuff. Nice, good You Enjoy Myself. And then the set's not over, and we finish off with a Possum. And I want to say the Possum, if I remember correctly, rides out of the vocal jam, and we sort of get a vocal jam into like an emerging into like Possum. We kind of leave the jam and get in the car and just drive on right on down that road. Just watch out for things in the middle of it. Yeah, really fantastic, fun, just good energy, well played first set. The rest of disc 2 opens up with set 2. They open up with the Andy Griffith theme, the down by the fishing hole. They start whistling, then they start kind of playing in. The band starts whistling, and we get a nice little Andy Griffith theme. I think it's the down by the water hole, down by the fishing hole. Didn't Henry Kaiser do a cover of that? I want to say Henry Kaiser did a pretty good cover of this on one of his albums. But yeah, they do a little Andy Griffith theme play around. Then they drop into A Bold as Love. Just, that's great. Awesome song choice. We get a Yamar. We get a Slave to the Traffic Light. Nice little middle of the second set, Slave to the Traffic Light. An AC/DC bag, which sounds pretty good. A Donna Lee jazz cover, back when they were doing their jazz covers. Pretty good. Then we get a Funky Bitch and a Foam. So definitely a set that's driven very much by the songs, like how well you like the songs. Like the Slave to the Traffic Light. I mean, you'll find better slaves. The AC/DC bag, great energy, but you'll find better AC/DC bags. But just everything together just complements each other well. It's played incredibly well. Again, there's a little bit of aggression that isn't necessarily there in later years, when they would choose to maybe slow down and let things breathe a little more. They're not letting things breathe as much. They're hitting a little harder, attacking a little harder. So it's definitely a little more slightly aggressive version of Phish. Then disc 3 opens up with undeniably the highlight of the show, I would argue, maybe the highlight of the year. It is just even one of those that I think now, if you like have been listening to Phish for decades and you have like this whole vast catalog of like performances of this song, and you've not yet heard this song, I still think you could sit down and listen to this version and go, yeah, that was a performance for 1989. And it's David Bowie. David Bowie drops hard. The jam is just like, for an era in which like, I think we all have an idea of like what a Split Open and Melt jam sounds like, and what a Tweezer jam sounds like, and what a David Bowie jam sounds like. And like when they go away from that, we like, oh, they're deviating from that norm, right? And that's why Phish is good, because they deviate a lot. This is the era when they're like defining what those jams sound like, right? They're like, this is the template for Antelope. This is the template for Split Open and Melt, right? This is the era where a lot of those things kind of, the platonic form of them gelled. And David Bowie, they're like, there's no form yet. We're just kind of, we're still figuring out what this is going to do. And we're going to go some weird places, and we're going to kind of detour over here, and then we'll jump back into the David Bowie lane, and then we're going to let things kind of devolve and go over here. Like, this is an exploratory fun. The band is like showing what lies ahead in the years to come. Like, if you were at the show and like, everything else is still like, what other band is doing this? The songwriting, the types of songs they're trying to play, the musicianship, the solos. You get to David Bowie and you're just like, they can do this also? Like, this is possible? Why don't they do this more? Like, are they only able to do it once? This is absolutely fantastic. And then in like 3 years, 4 years, like, oh, that entire show was this, right? So this David Bowie is fantastic. And if you haven't heard it, or if you haven't heard it recently and you're a Phish fan, like, go back and listen to it. Like, they really are like, they're like, oh, the possibilities are unlimited, you guys. We can do what we want. This is our song. This is our band. Fantastic, fantastic David Bowie. That ends set 2. Set 3, we get I think it's the first, the man who stepped into yesterday, into Avinu Malkeinu, which, if I'm not mistaken, appears on the next release, Volume 10, interestingly enough, which happened to be somebody's birthday show. Ridiculous release, but that's the next Phish video. We get a Susie Greenberg, pretty nice Susie Greenberg, a dinner and a movie, and then the Run Like an Antelope, the other song on here, which I think is a pretty well performed, pretty good version of this. Kind of gets sloppy at points. Feels like they're losing the sort of, especially towards the end of it, the cutoff of the solo, it seems a little too jarring and abrupt, but I almost like appreciate their ability to just like pull the plug as quickly as they do on it. But it's got some good intensity to it, some good ideas. I think it's a pretty solid end to what is it's the end of the set 3 of what is sort of the set 3 was Man Who Stepped In Yesterday, Avinu Malkeinu, Susie Greenberg, a dinner and a movie. The Run Like an Antelope, that was the high burst of intense energy this set needed. And ends it off well. And then for the encore, we get an Always Fun Contact, get an absolutely beautiful Lizards. Always fun to hear Lizards. Paige is playing, always beautiful. And then we get a Lagrange to wrap things up. And then the bonus track on this, McGrupp and the Watchful Hose Masters. I will take a McGrupp anytime. So yeah, that's the filler. It's a good release. I really, really like this release. But like I've discussed, it has its limitations. Where would I rank it? I would put it there. I put it at number 7. It's definitely, I think it's better than that 2000 show and that 94 show, which kind of seemed lost. And it's just not as good as the rest of the stuff. Like that timbered tweezer from the 95 show, I think is so much more interesting, and it's something I've returned to more often than this entire release. I can handle that entire set. Where for this release, it really is that David Bowie that I want to go back and revisit a lot. Not necessarily everything else. Though when I listen to it, I do think it's a better show than 8 and 9. Yeah, this is a good list of releases. Like, none of them are bad, right? I mean, number 7 is nothing to hang your head on. Hang your head at, hang your head over, hang your head through. Yeah, that's where I would put it, number 7. Historically, it has to be released. Set list is what drives it. One epic performance is 2 great performances. Whole thing is a great performance, but as far as solos go. But yeah, that's where I put it. Yeah, that's it. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you watched, thanks. If you know the show, if you go listen to the show, if you check it out, let me know what you think about. Love to read your comments. Those of you that have been commenting on Phish, thank you very much. The numbers are increasing, people. There are Phish fans out there. Let's keep luring them in and get more Phish discussion out there on the internets. But anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do all that stuff, and go listen to Phish. Go listen to the David Bowie from this release, guys. It's out there on streaming. Just listen. This band is fantastic. Even back in '89, they were doing some great stuff. David Bowie. Talk to you later. Peace.